recent Xbox Series X third-party gameplay showcase was mostly met with disappointment. According to a poll on IGN, nearly 75% of readers would have ranked it a 6 or below on the IGN scale. That's less because the games themselves didn't seem cool, a lot of them did, and more because our first proper glimpse at next-gen gameplay was, well, a little anticlimactic. But I may have some unfortunate news for anyone who had hoped to see a graphical leap on par with past console generations. You may need to lower your expectations. Don't get me wrong, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 games will definitely be prettier than the current gen, and Microsoft and Sony's first-party games will undoubtedly prove that. But be prepared for the majority of the next-gen games revealed over the next few months to look like they could potentially be current-gen, at least on the surface.
Deadly, right in our way. That's about right.
Graphics have plateaued somewhat, specifically when it comes to immediately obvious improvements, especially when shown off in an E3-style reveal trailer where we're used to seeing the most polished, unrealistically dolled-up version of a game anyway. As we covered in April, the Series X's 12 teraflops aren't just about better graphics, they're about better simulations too. Better lighting, hair, water, and other little real-time touches. Those significant improvements will still wow, but are far more subtle than the extra polygons and higher resolution textures that came with previous generational leaps. Additionally, the PS4 Pro and Xbox One have already enabled the use of 4K mid-generation. With 8K still a little more than a marketing buzzword, the PS5 and Series X don't currently have a higher resolution standard that we haven't already seen. Their extra power will mean frame rates get faster, which is a big deal, but it's also not something that is easily conveyed in a trailer. There are undoubtedly graphical improvements happening, but they end up being somewhat invisible ones. And it's not just that those upgrades will be harder to notice, it's also that the current bar is set extremely high. This generation is still impressing us. PCs with RTX graphics cards have given us a glimpse at what the next gen could look like for over a year now. Even ignoring that, this is surely the most graphically impressive final year of a console cycle ever. If last year's demos are to be believed, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be jaw-droppingly gorgeous. And even in 2018, Red Dead Redemption 2 was making landscapes with lighting that I didn't think was possible on current tech. It's just gonna be hard for next-gen reveals to top games we're all still excitedly waiting for. That goes double for launch titles, where developers haven't had years to work with this new tech and usually have to make sure it runs on the current generation as well. And I'm sure they'll only get better. If this generation has proved anything, it's that developers certainly know how to make the most of their hardware over time. But for the first time in potentially the history of video games, better graphics isn't the most hype-worthy angle of a new console launch. Excluding Nintendo, of course, who stopped prioritizing raw graphical power years ago. Instead, we should be most excited for internal upgrades, like the lightning-fast load times built-in SSDs will provide. It's harder to hype up something like that in a trailer, but it'll improve next-gen games far more than better hair physics ever could. I can't tell you how excited I am that we may never have to shimmy through a loading screen disguised as a stack of boxes ever again.
Emergency schedule is now in effect. Your understanding and cooperation.
There are tons of reasons to be excited about the improvements the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 will bring, but oh my god, this looks unbelievable! Probably won't be the biggest one at launch. And again, Microsoft and Sony will almost certainly prove me wrong in that regard once first-party gameplay is revealed. But those insanely refined, built specially for the system examples will likely be the exception rather than the rule. So for now, don't expect next-gen gameplay to equal some mind-blowing thing we've never seen before. Odds are it will be something very similar to what we've seen, but with tons of subtle improvements that are hard to truly appreciate until you're sitting down and experiencing them for yourself. This holiday season will probably look very familiar, but that doesn't mean it won't be extremely exciting. For more on next-gen consoles, check out our most recent episode of Next Gen Console Watch, our show all about that stuff. And for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.